Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to part 2 of Les's Pin Refine. We got everything filtered off. As you can see in our jar, we got our filters. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to put this into aqua regia. Our total time dissolving it and everything in the AP took almost 5.5 to 6 weeks. So when you're doing pins in AP, just remember it is not going to be a quick process, especially if you've got a lot of full plate stuff. It takes a long time for that acid to work its way in. If you've got affordable nitric acid, it's going to go a lot faster that way, but unfortunately most nitric acid here in the States is not going to be cheap unless you make it, and it's, I have the equipment to make it, but I'd rather buy the stuff. The one you make is actually fuming nitric acid, and I don't like messing with that stuff at all. So, anyhow, I'm going to get set up, and we're going to go ahead and get these gold foils dissolved, and we're going to see how much gold we ended up with from this. So, we'll be back at you when we are ready to do our aqua regia. Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and put our HCl in here. We've got our little bottle of nitric and our pipette. It shouldn't take too much to do this. The only reason it's probably going to take a little bit more liquid is because I've got all these filter papers in here, so I'm actually probably going to be making a little bit of an excess of what I need. I probably should have put it in a smaller beaker too, but I didn't. So, irregardless, we are going to make some aqua regia. So, as you can see, we've got quite a few foils in some of that. I'm actually going to have to put a little bit more HCl in there. And it is actually kind of cool out here this morning, so we may end up having to put this up on the burner. More than likely we will. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and get it started like this. I think that may do it. If not, we'll put a little bit more. No big deal. So now let's go ahead and put a little bit of nitric acid in here. In fact, let me just go ahead and put some more HCl in there and not even mess around. Like I said, I know it's going to be in excess, but I didn't want to have to, transfer to another beaker. We're probably going to have a little bit of copper in this as well. We may have to refine it twice. I may be able to just boil it out after the fact with nitric. But go ahead and get this in here. That's about 5 milliliters of nitric so far. And like I said, it is pretty cold. It actually got down to about 32 degrees here last night, so it was pretty cool. Go ahead and put a little bit more. Clean off my let's see if we're getting any reaction yet. We are starting to get a little bit. So let me go ahead and get this moved up here on the burner. Rearrange a little bit of this stuff here. And we will see if we get a little bit better reaction with some heat. But we are getting a reaction. I can see it starting to kick off already. So we'll get her moved up here and we'll get right back at you. Okay guys, I can see we are getting a little bit of a reaction. I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit more nitric. Just a touch. Maybe a milliliter or two, see if we can't speed this up a little bit. See if that'll perk things up a little bit. And we will get back at you guys when we got a little action going on. Okay, we are starting to get a nice steady, slow little reaction. It's starting to warm up. I can see some of the material is dissolving. So I may just let this run for a bit and just put it in time lapse so you guys can see it. I might have to put a little bit more nitric in there. I'm actually going to let it heat up a little bit more before I do any of that, because I am seeing a decent reaction in the center. So we're just going to let it go for a few minutes, and I'll let it time lapse. So we'll get back at you in just a few. Okay guys, I think our reaction has pretty much stopped. It wasn't, real super spectacular with a lot of foaming and everything else. Like I said, simply because it's kind of cool out here, and it was already getting dissolved, slowly pretty good before I even put it on the burner. We've got a nice looking color solution. So I'm going to leave it here just a bit longer just to be safe, and then we're going to get our flask out, get our filter paper set up, and we're going to get ready to filter this off and see what we end up with. So we will be back at you when we are ready to filter this stuff off and get it cleaned up. So we'll be back in just a sec. Okay everybody, we're actually getting ready to start filtering. I've got my back fan on to push these fumes away from me. Let me grab a slow filter paper, and we are going to filter this stuff off. Now I do have my vacuum pump set up. I actually got another one that I could just leave out here so I don't have to keep moving them back and forth all the time. But we are going to go ahead and wet our filter paper down. And this, by the way, is a slow flow paper. I prefer using those now. They filter out more of the junk, and when you're filtering your foils or your powder gold, your flash gold plating and things like that, it does a really good job at catching that black powder. Where, not that the coffee filters don't work, I'm not going to say they don't work, they do, and they're definitely inexpensive to use, but you're going to get a lot better job, and you're going to find that you're going to get more gold or more gold powder to find stuff using these slow flow papers instead of using coffee filters. So we got that set up now. We're going to go ahead and aim our fan a little bit more behind us. And we're going to go ahead and get started filtering this off. Got a Nice color material. And that's just all our junk from our coffee filter, or not our coffee filters, but our slow flow papers, because we had about 5 or 6 of them. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in here because I am going to hit it with the vacuum. And should we need to filter it again, we will. Make sure we get every drop of that, because that is gold. Flip this on. We got a nice color solution there. I'm going to go ahead and clean the rest of this out. And what we are going to do is we are going to actually rinse this. We will rinse this until these papers are absolutely white. You don't want to leave any color in your filters. If you leave color in your filters, you're leaving gold behind. And you certainly don't want to be leaving any gold behind. Looks to me like we're getting a nice clear solution the first time around. We may not have to filter this one again. Boy, it's so nice having that vacuum pump out here. This would have taken, with all those filter papers that were in there, I mean, this would have literally taken probably a few hours just to filter that little bit. But now with the vacuum pump, it just comes right out. I'm seeing, so far so good, I'm not seeing any color. Looks like our fluid is starting to run clear. We do have a little bit of copper in there, like I figured we would, but that's okay. I'm not overly concerned with that. So I'm going to finish cleaning this up and get this poured into a little beaker, and we will get ready to do our drop. So we'll be back at you guys in just a bit. Okay guys, we got everything filtered out. We have a nice clear solution. I'm going to actually hit it with just a touch of urea right now and make sure we don't have any excess nitric. Get rid of our nitric acid, which as you can see we do, and we didn't use that much, so that just goes to show you, you might not think you have it in there, but you do. So we are going to continue to add urea to this until we don't get any further reaction, and then we will I've got some sodium metabisulfite dissolving in water, and some distilled water warming up right now. So when that is done and we have got this denoxed, we'll go ahead and do our drop. So we'll get right back at you. Okay guys, we got it all denoxed. I use urea when I know, like with these pins, they were all clean. There was no lead on them anywhere or any tin on them anywhere, so I don't mind using urea for that. I am, however, going to start, when I do stuff that has maybe a little bit of lead on it, or I suspect a little bit of lead or tin or something left over, I'm going to start using sulfamic acid. Then that way I don't have to put any sulfuric acid in it to drop the lead. The sulfamic acid will actually also do that. So we are going to go ahead and add our sodium metabisulfite. I think I put about 3 grams in here, something like that. I'm just kind of guesstimating. But we're going to go ahead and pour that in and see what kind of a drop we get. And there she goes. So it looks like we got a pretty fair little drop. So now comes the waiting game. So now that we've got our drop done, we'll let this sit. Hopefully it'll be nice clean gold and it'll drop out fast. If not, we'll just have to leave it till the morning. Real quick, guys, I was just headed in and I just got my stuff all cleaned up and put up, and it's only been about 15 minutes. And as you can see, we've already got a pretty good separation line in there. So maybe this will settle out pretty quick. I hope we get a pretty decent drop out of it. I know Les has been probably chomping at the bit to see what was going to come out of that, and I've kind of been chomping at the bit to see what was going to come out of it. But like I said, for no more, I mean, I know there's not going to be a lot of gold in it, and it just would have really raised the price way up to process this with nitric acid. So anyhow, I'm going to go in and do a little bit of editing, and we'll come back out in a couple hours and check this. Well, hey guys, it has been about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, and I just want to come take a peek at this. It's settling out pretty fast. We still got a little bit left, a little haze left in there. So we're going to leave it a little more. I'm going to actually take it down and make sure there's no gold floating on top. One of them little tiny mini borer bees just flew by. And anyway, let me do that, see if we got any gold floating so we can get it to settle down. And we're going to leave this a little bit longer, but it looks pretty good. It looks like it's settling out really quick. So that's an indicator that we got some higher end gold. So we'll be back at you in just a little while. Okay guys, well, I let it set overnight anyway, just to be sure. But we got a nice clear liquid now. And we definitely have some gold in the bottom. It's hard to tell how much is in there because it's a big bottom, and I did tap it over a little bit. But I'm saying there's got to be at least, a half a gram in there, maybe a little more. I'm not positive yet, but I'm going to go ahead and get set up. And we're going to get this gold rinsed and see what we ended up with. So we'll be back at you in just a bit. Okay guys, we've got our AR pretty much drained off of this. I don't know how well you can see that in there. I'm thinking after we clean it, because there's a little bit of junk in there, it's going to cloud up, when we rinse it. But I'm thinking after we clean it, it's hard to judge this because I haven't rinsed it yet. But I'm still saying probably around a half a gram. I know that that's not a lot. I think we had approximately, let's call it 350, 360 grams of pins and other stuff. But there was only one really good, most of the filters had a little bit of foils in them. There was one that really had good foils in it, which is probably what most of this is from. And seeing what we got out of that is telling me that a lot of that stuff was just flash plated, which means it's newer. There's some newer stuff, or it was some little bit newer stuff. Flash plated material looks really good, but it just doesn't have a lot of gold on it. It's kind of like the difference between gold-filled jewelry and gold electroplated jewelry. Your gold-filled jewelry actually has a very thin layer of gold over it, where gold-plated jewelry, the gold is just kind of flashed on there. It's a very thin, very, gosh, I don't even really know how to describe it, but that's the difference. If you want to think of it that way, your flash gold plating is what's on most boards today, and even some of the RAM now and some of the other things that look like they have fingers. They're not actually a foil. They are actually just a flash plating. Like where RAM, you can run your finger. You can take and run your finger down the RAM, the fingernail, and feel that. Those are actually foils. But then if you get one of those, say one of the plates off the back of a LED screen, and it looks like it has RAM, it looks like it has fingers all the way across, but it's smooth, that's flash plating. So anyhow, I'm, coming to the conclusion that we probably had quite a bit of flash plating in there. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get this rinsed and cleaned. I'm going to see if I'm going to need to boil it in a little bit of hydrochloric acid to get rid of some copper. I can see a little bit of what appears to be iron, or looks like iron. So we're going to rinse that iron away as best we can. Then we're going to probably boil it in a little bit of hydrochloric acid after we get it rinsed really good. And then we're going to melt it and see what we ended up with. So we'll be back at you in just a bit. Okay guys, we have finished our rinse. I'm actually doing my last kind of little rinse right now. We're going to boil this in distilled water for a little bit. And then we will pour off that distilled water. And we will put a little bit of HCl in there, and we'll boil it in HCl to remove any other minerals or copper or any other junk that's in it. And then we're going to move it to the melting dish, and we're going to melt it and see what we got. So we'll be back at you as soon as we're done with this and we're ready to melt it. So we'll see you in a bit. Okay everybody, we have rinsed and cleaned our gold powder. You can see the little bit that's in there. It's a nice color. It looks dark because it's still wet, but it's very light tan colored. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle a little borax in here, and we're going to go ahead and fire this up and see what we got. Oh, just so nice having everything right where it's easy to get to. And now the wind's going to pick up. Just because I'm fixing to do this. It is a little wet, so I'm going to have to go slow at first to get it good and dry. So if it gets too long, I'll time lapse this. Okay guys, I don't know what we quite got here. I can't hardly see right now because all I'm seeing is the flame from the torch. I think most of our borax came off. But there she is. She's got a little tiny cave in on the top. We go get our scale and see what we got. So I will be right back. Okay guys, let's see what we ended up with. I think most of the borax came off of this. There might be a little tiny bit on it, but I think most of it came off. And I called it just about right. We got 0.43 grams. Now what I want to talk about real quick, we had 200, I don't have a calculator out here, so we had 281 or something like that, and another 80, so about 360 grams of cleaned pins, all gold plating. Now a lot of that must have been flashed. Like I said, we did get one filter that showed that showed some nice foils, but the rest was mostly just black powder, which indicates there was a lot of flash plating on that stuff. But that's still almost a half a gram of gold. Now it took us 6 weeks, basically let's say 6 weeks using the hydrochloric acid. It would have taken a day if we used nitric, but with that same 360 grams we would have had to use almost a liter of nitric acid, and that would have been probably, let's call it ballpark, let's just say about $40 worth of nitric acid. So it would not have paid to have done these pins with nitric acid. And it did take us a lot of time, but in actual money in acid, it only took us, probably $8 or $9 worth of hydrochloric acid. So let's say in total with chemicals, filters, and everything else, we probably have $10 tied up in getting this 0.43 grams of gold. Let me see if I got my phone. We can check. Gold was about 1,700 an ounce. So real quick, I'm just going to go 1,700 divided by 31.1 equals $54.66 per gram pure. So we'll do that times 0.43 equals, so we've got $23, about $23.50 worth of gold came off of those pins. So doing it with the hydrochloric acid did pay. I mean, I don't have a lot of work in it other than, just waiting. The physical work of straining and filtering and whatever, big deal. But so it's about double your money that way. Now, Les, I'm going to just go ahead and send you this. I'm not going to take any of it. I actually got a couple videos out of it, so I'm happy. And I know you worked your butt off to get that. So I'm going to send you this little guy. And I appreciate you sending me the stuff, but I just want everybody to know it takes a lot of pins to add up to anything anymore, especially if the pins are more modern. So just so you know, unless you've got military grade pins or something that are actually going to yield more foils than anything, and not just your flash down powder gold, it takes a lot of pins today, especially today, to add up to anything. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. It took 2 months, right on that, or not 2 months. Yeah, well, I mean, from the time I got the stuff to the time I was able to start and do it, about 2 months to go through this process. So anyway, guys, like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't babble too long, and we will see you guys in the next video.